January 30th and the major deadline that's coming that may result in yet again another crisis. However, this one is not going to be nearly as bad as the last one, but nonetheless, it certainly will be impactful and hurt a lot of people financially. Let me explain the details of this. All right, so first off, let's rewind back to November of last year. I think we all clearly remember what happened in November of last year, which was the government shutdown that lasted from early October, obviously October 1st, until the middle of November when they finally reopened the government again. That was the longest government shutdown in the history of this country, by the way, which I talked about last year. However, during that time, we had all kinds of different things happening. Mostly, or most notably, I should say, is the SNAP or food stamp situation. Well, guess what? When they reopened the government in the middle of November, that was not a long-term deal, but rather it was just a short-term extension out until when? January 30th. Yeah, exactly. So we're going to be right back in the same situation again in a matter of days here, unless they come together on a longer-term solution to fund the government long-term out until the end of the fiscal year, which happens to be September 30th, or if they come together on another short-term extension. But as of right now, it seems like they're maybe making some progress on negotiations, but yet nothing is written in stone or passed yet as of right now. So we may very likely be going into yet again another government shutdown as of basically January 31st, when the current extension that they passed back in the middle of November is expiring the end of the day, January 30th. Now, I want to talk about this a little bit further here because, again, anytime that we think about, oh my, a potential government shutdown, this may be a little bit of a scary situation for a lot of people out there that got hurt so badly back in November when the food stamp situation was playing out, that I covered extensively at that time, and everything else that was happening, a lot of people were getting hurt financially in a big way, right? So anytime that we have this idea of, another potential government shutdown may be coming, a lot of people might feel a little bit uneasy about that, and I don't blame you whatsoever about that. However, let me explain really quickly why this time, if we go into another government shutdown, will still be bad, but it's not going to be nearly as bad as the last one. Okay, remember what happened last time? We had this lapse in food stamps, lapse in SNAP benefits. That was possibly one of the most popular talking points at the time. I mean, it was a big, big deal. We've never seen a lapse in the distribution of food stamps, SNAP benefits to beneficiaries in the history of this country, except until November of last year, okay? However, here's what they did. In the middle of November, when they reopened the government, the exciting part, or I shouldn't even say exciting part, the good part about it is that they had a short-term extension out until January 30th to fund the overall government, but yet they also had 3 appropriations attached to the short-term funding, one of which was the full year appropriations for the Department of Agriculture, USDA, okay? What that means is that they appropriated all the money for the entire year out until the end of September 2026 for the SNAP and food stamp program. So, if we go into another government shutdown here in a matter of days, if that does happen, it's not going to impact the food stamp program, the SNAP benefit program, like it did back in November, where there was this massive lapse of benefits. The Supreme Court, the lower court, the administration, and every other person and their brother were getting involved and trying to figure out the rules of, should we pay? Should we not pay? Should we pay partial? Should we not pay partial? Should we pay any? Or should we not pay any at all, right? I mean, it was back and forth. Everybody was coming in, and there was so much disagreement on what is the law? Like, what's the law state right here, right? And then obviously the courts got involved. It was just a huge, huge mess. But the good news is, if we go into a government shutdown again, we're not going to go through that same situation with the food stamp, the SNAP situation like we did in November, because that is fully funded out until the end of September of this year. However, to be fair, if October rolls around and they do not have another funding bill for the 2027 fiscal year, then guess what? We could potentially be playing through another government shutdown in October that could potentially impact food stamps, SNAP benefits, again, much later on in the year, October, November timeframe. Let's not even think about that. There's a lot of time between now and then. A lot of things are going to happen between now and then. but I wanted to come back and talk about this really quickly because a lot of times it's easy to forget about what they did a couple months ago, and sometimes what they do doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It's like, what did they pass in the first place? Well, I want to share this with you really quickly just to be like, hey, it's an important deadline. Yup, if we go into a government shutdown, we're going to have the whole situation where flights are delayed and that whole situation like we saw again in November. There's way more to it than just that, but at least we don't need to struggle through the whole food snap situation, which I know a lot of you in this community that watch these videos receive these types of benefits, and thankfully we don't have to go through that yet again if they go into another government shutdown. Who knows what's going to happen here? Predicting lawmakers is honestly kind of easy a lot of the times, but also kind of a little bit difficult because it's like they say a bunch of things, they don't follow through with a lot of it, and then sometimes out of nowhere, they pull some random thing out of left field, and it's like, where did that even come from in the first place? So anyway, I'm going to keep you posted this whole time with anything going on right now. Want to point out this key deadline here. I'll keep you posted on all of that. And again, stay tuned. Who knows what else is going to happen here? I'll continue to keep you posted. Again, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for watching this. Please, if you have not done so, subscribe, 100% free. Big subscribe button down below. But this is yet again another major timeline, another major deadline that we want to keep in our mind here as far as what's going on. And then also remember as well, the Federal Reserve meeting for Wednesday, whatever that date is, the 28th, is that what that is? Yeah, so anyway, that date as well, okay? So some big things happening as always. When we roll over to the new year, this is always what it looks like. And by the way, I've also said this before, generally September through about March is by far the busiest time of year in general when it comes down to the benefits that I often talk about here on the channel. Again, Social Security, SSDI, Survivor, Spousal, SSI, VA, RRB, Medicare, Medicaid, all of that. This is by far the busiest time of year. Again, generally about September through March, that time frame is a very busy time of year. Anyway, we're in that right here, right now, by the way. Hope this helps you. Stay tuned. Again, please subscribe if you've not done so. Otherwise, drop your comments, your questions, your feedback down below. Let me know what you need questions on. I can certainly jump on a live stream, no problem whatsoever. Answer those for you or come back in dedicated videos. I don't have a problem with that either. Anyway, hope you're having a nice day. Stay warm out there. I'll keep you posted. It's a very weird time. I know I've been saying that for a very long time, but it is. It's a very weird time. All right, anyway. Enjoy. Thanks again. Stay tuned, and I'll catch you again later in the next video. Thanks so much, and I'll see you again.